The focus shifted a bit from the attacks that had been happening on Kim Darroch from President Trump today to the lack of support that Kim Darroch got in last night's leadership debate from Boris Johnson. There's pushback from supporters of Boris Johnson saying that there's no way that had anything to do with his departure. But I have been told by sources that, in fact, although the idea of leaving the job had been forming in Kim Darroch's mind already, it was Boris Johnson in the debate not giving support that clinched Kim Darroch's decision. Theresa May was lecturing slightly in the House of Commons today that people should be very careful about these constitutional niceties like the independence of civil servants, officials, diplomats. Some people will say that's pretty rich. There was a senior diplomat, Ivan Rogers, who left government service. I think most people suspect because of a leak from people very close to Theresa May. There is an expectation, maybe that's pushing it too far, a hope in bits of Whitehall tonight that Theresa May will seize this moment, this window, this 2 weeks that she's still in number 10, to put someone in place of Kim Darroch in Washington that maybe wouldn't be the person Boris Johnson would put there. We don't know whether she's going to be able to pull that off. Amongst grandees in foreign policy in this country, you sense they can't quite decide which they feel worse about tonight. The fact that Britain has been pushed around by America's leader in the last 24, 48 hours, or the fact that the man who looks like he could be going into number 10 in 2 weeks' time seemed instinctively not ready to defend a British diplomat under attack from a foreign leader.
The Fox News alert. The British ambassador to the United States, Kim Darroch, has resigned.
Sir Kim Darroch said the pressure on his family and the embassy was too much. Leaked emails criticising President Trump's administration prompted insults against him from the president and what looked like a ban on attending White House meetings. But Kim Darroch was also said to have been influenced by the lack of support from Boris Johnson in last night's Tory leadership contenders debate.
Go on, tell us if you'll keep the ambassador in Washington. Come on. I know no one here is going to tell anyone. Just tell us the answer.
I'm not going to be so presumptuous as to I'm
going
to be in a position.
Do you believe that Sir Kim Darroch resigned because Boris Johnson failed to fully support him in your debate with him last night?
I defended him, and I think we all should.
This could be a post-politics career, Boris. Look up for us. All too soon.
Boris Johnson, visiting a Wetherspoons pub in London this morning, was asked about failing to back the ambassador in last night's debate.
But you weren't going to back him. You said last night you weren't going to back him.
No, on the contrary. Well, my view is it's wrong to drag civil servants into the political arena. That's what I think.
What is clear is that Boris Johnson did not defend him. And I think that is spineless. I think it's a failure of leadership. I think he's basically thrown Kim Darroch under the bus for his own private ambition. And I deplore that.
Boris Johnson was asked about that today and said, no, I didn't say that. I didn't deny support to Kim Darroch last night. Does that tally with your viewing of the debate?
No, and I think his protests today are insincere guff.
If you're in that position in Washington, beleaguered, waiting for the next tweet from the president, what you're going to look for most of all is staunch support back home. And he had it from the Prime Minister. He had positive words from Jeremy Hunt. And the fact that there weren't those positive words in the debate last night must have been a factor.
It's a bit early in the day for us. Well, I had quite a late night last night.
Boris Johnson responded to those attacks by phoning Sir Kim Darroch to express his sadness at his departure. Back at the Foreign Office, where a month ago President Trump gave his end-of-state visit press conference, a room was filling up with officials, called for a special briefing from the head of the Foreign Office to calm their nerves.
I think people are shaken by what has happened. There is a reason why I have asked to see all my colleagues at 4 o'clock this afternoon. The basis on which we have worked all our careers suddenly feels as though it is challenged.
In the front row for the pep talk, Sir Alan Duncan.
I can't imagine for a second that this will have improved Boris Johnson's stock in this building from the low point from which it was already starting.
Boris Johnson was accused of a different affront to the Constitution first thing this morning, when the former Prime Minister, Sir John Major, attacked the frontrunner in the Tory leadership campaign for refusing to rule out suspending Parliament if MPs were threatening to block a no-deal Brexit.
I, for one, would be prepared to go and seek judicial review to prevent Parliament being bypassed.
I think the idea that now consecrating the decision to the judiciary is really very, very odd indeed. And what we want is for Parliament to take their responsibilities, get it done.
And from the current Prime Minister, what sounded like a warning after Kim Darroch's resignation not to play fast and loose with the independence of the civil service.
And I hope the House will reflect on the importance of defending our values and principles, particularly when they are under pressure.
Some in Whitehall are hoping that Theresa May will quickly appoint a successor to Sir Kim Darroch before her successor moves into number 10 in 2 weeks' time.
Gary Gibbon there. Well, how did the resignation go down in Washington, D.C.? Our correspondent Kieran Jenkins is at the White House for us. Kieran.
Well, a disastrous day for British diplomacy. Just another day for Donald Trump diplomacy. The White House wanted Sir Kim Darroch out, and they got it. Not so much of a special relationship yesterday morning when President Trump sent those humiliating tweets, or when he then froze out the UK ambassador, effectively making his position untenable. Now, the nearest we've had to a response today has come from the Vice President's Chief of Staff. He said that in light of the last few days, the ambassador's ability to be effective was probably limited. Well, whose fault is that, you might wonder? Now, tellingly, President Trump has already moved on. He's tweeting about other grievances this morning. But the UK, this relationship is too important. We can't move on. What does the next ambassador do here? Does he or she censor themselves, thinking that their communications might somehow get out? What does the next Prime Minister do here? If it's Boris Johnson, he's expected to dart over here to the White House for a meeting with President Trump. How much of a factor was that in his not giving Sir Kim his full backing yesterday, with an eye on the importance of a future trade deal after Brexit? And on to that trade deal, what does it tell us about that? The power balance in those talks. If the president can effectively dictate who isn't or is our ambassador, then where will he stop?
Kieran Jenkins, thanks very much. John?
Well, a little earlier I spoke to the Shadow Foreign Secretary, Emily Thornberry, and I pointed to her that the treatment of Sir Kim Darroch was becoming a national humiliation.
I think it's terrible, isn't it? It breaches so many rules. Why on earth should we be bowing down in front of this dreadful president? He doesn't like our ambassador now, so we have to change him. And you know what has really happened, and you know, and I know, all the public know, it doesn't really matter what Theresa May says. What matters is what the next Prime Minister is going to say. When Trump was first elected, I remember saying to Boris Johnson, we have to be really concerned about this. Shouldn't we be challenging him on things like climate change, on the Iranian nuclear deal, all of these various things? And Boris Johnson would say to me, oh, Emily, you're just exaggerating. You don't really understand. You know, it's not that serious. You know, he'll be completely different. Well, he's not. And he needs to be stood up to. And if our ambassador tells the truth about the American president and the current regime, he certainly shouldn't be put into an embarrassing position whereby the next Prime Minister is not prepared to defend him, and so that he feels obliged to resign. It is disgraceful. Of course it's disgraceful, and it is a national humiliation.
The fact of the matter is that he simply could not go on doing his job, even if he wanted to.
Look, there have been leaks of cables before. These things happen at times, but frankly, we stand by our diplomats, and we have to say to the Foreign Service, you know, the people around the world who are serving our country, we stand with you. We will not just throw you under a bus in this way. It really is dreadful.
Politicians on both sides in the House have talked about special relationship, our best friends and the rest of it. The truth of the matter is they are when they want to be, and they aren't when they don't.
I don't think I really agree with you. I think that there is a great deal about America that we do have in common. I think that we have deep friendships with America. It's just that we have problems with this particular president, actually.
Relations between the President of the United States and Great Britain are the worst since Suez.
Well, maybe. Yeah, I mean, I understand that, but it isn't just the president. You know, America is not just this current president. America is a vast nation of huge numbers of people, of all kinds of politicians and people around the president, and we work with them. We don't need to work with him. But I tell you what, we do not let him bully us. You know, I'm fed up with watching all this hand-holding and kowtowing. You know, it's not working. It doesn't work. So I've always said, when you're faced with a bully, you stand up to them.
In the meantime, Emily Thornberry, the Brexit issue has risen again, not least because Labour appear to have changed their position to some extent.
So we have clarified our position, I think. I think it is now perfectly clear that any deal or no deal that this government introduces, we will demand that there is another referendum and we will be campaigning to remain. That's the position.
And is Labour a Remain party?
Well, we will be. I mean, that's what our position is, isn't it? Is that we campaign to remain.
But it hasn't been until now.
Well, I'm just telling you, our position is clear, and our position is that anything that this government puts forward, we are going to be demanding that there's a referendum and that Remain is on the ballot paper, and we are getting on the barricades for Remain.
And in the event of an election?
And in the event of election, we do what we always do because we're a big old democratic party. We've got 500,000 members. We have a Clause 5 process, and we will need to work out what it is in our manifesto. I don't imagine, John, if you speak to anybody from any of the political parties and ask them what's in their next manifesto, they're not going to be able to tell you. You know, I want to be helpful here, but we can't really because we have a democratic process, and also we don't know when the election's going to be.
Beyond the reality that actually Europe is an absolutely fundamental issue.
Of course it is.
In our democracy.
Of course it is. And the point is that as of now, my party is one whereby we get onto the barricades for Remain if there is a deal that this government brings back, and we say we will not allow that to go ahead without there being a referendum and without us, and we will be campaigning to Remain.
Emily Thornberry there. Now from Labour to Tory. Earlier I spoke to Boris Johnson's supporter and former Defence Secretary Sir Michael Fallon. I asked him how big a national humiliation he thought this whole business has been for us.
Oh, it's obviously disappointing. The scale of this leak is going to make it very difficult in future for other ambassadors to report fairly and frankly if they know their stuff is going to be leaked. So, as Boris Johnson has said, we need to rapidly find out who did this and make sure that they're caught and punished.
Boris Johnson effectively hung Kim Darroch out to dry last night. He did nothing less than that by not supporting him.
No, that's nonsense. Sir Kim's position became extremely difficult when all this material was published on Sunday. He was then cut out of meetings with the American administration on the Monday. And then yesterday we had the president's tweet attacking him directly, attacking our Prime Minister directly. And it was then, of course, that Sir Kim's position became untenable.
Sir Kim has told a number of friends who've told quite a few reporters that it was only when Boris Johnson refused to back him in the debate last night that he decided to take the decision and resign today.
No, I understand that Sir Kim had been considering his position once the material was published on Sunday. As I said, it became extremely difficult on the Monday when he was cut out of meetings, and then you had this direct attack from the president himself. Ambassadors around the world are expected to report fairly and frankly on what they see. That is all that Kim Darroch did. He was doing his job, and the leak, of course, made it impossible for him to continue.
OK, in 2016, Boris Johnson called Donald Trump, and I quote here, out of his mind with stupefying ignorance that makes him unfit to be president.
I think that was criticism of some remarks he'd made about London, but it points to the fact that
but hang on
Boris
a minute,
Johnson...
these are words said by the man who's going to be Prime Minister of this country against the man who just tried to get our ambassador sacked.
About London, when he was mayor of London, but that points to the fact that Boris Johnson is not going to be any kind of lapdog. He's perfectly prepared to criticise the president when necessary, and indeed there are differences of view. Boris Johnson, for example, as Foreign Secretary, took a very different view of Iran and the issue of its nuclear programme from the United States. But he has a warm personal relationship with President Trump, and if, as I hope, he'll be elected, chosen as Prime Minister, then I hope he can repair some of this damage.
Isn't the truth of the matter that the special relationship will be shredded every single time by Donald Trump's mantra of America first? And this was just a foretaste of things to come.
Well, American presidents do put America first. It's the strongest economy in the world.
Including
They've got the
at
biggest
the expense
defence.
of the special relationship, obviously.
Sometimes at the expense of allies. You know, we have to live with that. We are, these days, a junior partner to the United States, but it is one of the closest relationships in the diplomatic world. It's a relationship founded on security, on defence, on intelligence sharing, on trade, and I'm quite sure it'll survive.
Is the sad truth not the following, that whether it's Kim Darroch or it's Ollie Robbins talking about Europe and the withdrawal agreement, the Tory party in power cannot take uncomfortable truths from civil servants who are doing their job. And when they do so, you are happy to throw them under the bus.
No, that's nonsense. We take uncomfortable truths from civil servants.
Ivan Rogers was
time.
forced to resign because he told a Tory government the uncomfortable truth about Brexit.
Ivan Rogers chose to resign over Brexit.
Rather like Sir Kim Darroch chose to resign because it was impossible for him to continue because he didn't get the support that he expected, rightly, from the government in London.
Look, he had support from the government in London. Jeremy Hunt said he hoped he would continue in office until his retirement at the end of the year. The Prime Minister, and indeed Boris Johnson,
but he didn't get support from Boris Johnson. That's the key point.
Boris
Not last night.
Boris Johnson supports all our diplomats all over the world.
But not the ones that matter in these crucial moments.
Absolutely. Look, the point Boris made was the origin of this was the leak. It was nothing to do with the debate last night. It was the leak back on Sunday and the difficulty of conducting a relationship with the United States on Monday and on Tuesday in the light of the President's tweet. That is what has led to his resignation. I regret it, but I'm sure and I hope that this relationship can be repaired.
Simon MacDonald, the head of the Foreign Office, speaking in the House of Commons today in committee, said that this was the most challenging moment that he had ever come across in his 35 years of experience. That everything, and I quote here, everything that he and his fellow civil servants have worked towards has been undermined by this. That is an astonishing thing for the head of the Foreign Office to say.
It is, and it's a very important thing for him to say, and I completely agree with him. You can't operate a diplomatic network on the scale we have if ambassadors will feel that their stuff is going to be leaked. So this is the most serious leak the Foreign Office, I think, has ever had.
So Michael Fallon, thank you very much.
Thank you.